Hey y'all, hey, it's JJ Conway. Welcome to Building Wealth Together, where our goal is to help you walk in abundance and leave a legacy. It's Mindset Monday, where we take the best teachings on mindset, motivation, and leadership and apply them to your life. This helps you get past the past and grow forward into abundance. Let's get into it. Hi everyone, it's JJ Conway back with another time-tested success strategy for entrepreneurs, business leaders, speakers, and even moms. This is part of my overall countdown to your best year ever course. Now, if you're new to me and my body of work, first of all, I want to say thank you for being here today. Your time is your most precious resource, and I am humbled and honored that you're spending it with me and my tribe. Make sure you navigate to buildingwealthtogether.com so you can get the rest of the series. It's my Christmas gift to you because it is free till December 31st. So now look, y'all, as we cover these time-tested success strategies, remember that we're looking at these from two perspectives. Number one, what is the principle? Like, what is the principle and how is it applied and lived through? And I'll give you some examples of how this principle served me and successful people that I've observed. And then the second lens through which we look at this is, what is the thinking with a level of awareness that one has to grow into in order to live it out? Last couple of lessons, we talked about how you are the leader and how you have to learn to suffer in silence. I was never good at that. And the worst part was, I never knew that I wasn't good at that. I seriously thought I had great military bearing. Now, some of you are probably laughing right now, I'm sure. But I was just 100% positive that I was living out that Air Force value of never let your troops know when you think little of your boss or his or her ideas. I had this really bad habit of sighing really hard and exhaling my frustration. Like that. I may have told you about that last time. I can't remember. But when I was a major, I had a mentor tell me about it, and I'm very thankful that she was persistent when I didn't believe her the first 4 or 5 times she tried to get me to understand this, right? So today, we're going to talk about something else a mentor had to really drill into me. It's this concept of don't treat everyone the same. You see, I've always fought for the underdog. I've always stood up against injustice, and I've often been on the receiving end of being poorly treated. I was that kid that the teachers didn't care about. I wasn't ever going to be nothing, so why waste their time on me? So I had a deep resistance to this lesson when it was first brought to me, but it's so important. And I'm going to explain why so many of you are doing a lot, but accomplishing nothing. And so that's really what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about that rolled up into this concept of don't treat everyone the same. We're going to talk about friendship, mentorship, basically the ships, the different relationships. And we're going to look at the ships. The big thing here is to know your ship. So whoever you're talking to, ask yourself, what's the ship I'm on here? Am I in a relationship? Is this a friendship? Is this a mentorship? Is this an employeeship? What's the ship? Is this fellowship? What's the ship? What sea am I on? What ship am I in? And then raise the flag of that ship. Don't get your ships mixed up, y'all. Don't go on the wrong port. And don't treat everyone the same. You didn't treat everyone the same before COVID crisis, okay? You didn't pay everyone the same before the crisis. Don't treat everybody the same during the crisis. The truth is, you'll become more aware right now of the diamonds within your organization. See, when you're under pressure and heat, well, that's how diamonds are made. So the coronavirus is just one time where we have been under pressure and heat, but as a business. You're under pressure and heat all the time. If it wasn't the coronavirus, it might be that you've got a big deadline coming up or a big launch coming or a contract or a big meeting or whatever. There's always times when the business is under pressure and the heat is turned up. And your diamonds show up. And let me tell you, not everybody in the organization is a diamond. Some are, some are emeralds, some are pearls, some are cubic zirconia, some are tanzanite, some are coal. So again, just forget it for a second about trying to be fair, okay? I'm going to do a whole fairness lesson, all right? What we have to understand is when we're dealing with people as entrepreneurs and business leaders, we got to look at is there merit, there is commitment, the responsibility, and production. So we want to take care of the diamonds, and we want to make sure that they know they're being taken care of. We got to make sure that when it's time for you to sit down with the diamond and take care of that diamond, you got to make sure that they know they're a diamond. Don't make them wonder or guess if you know the value that they're bringing you. And one of the things that I think we do very well is we try to edify the people on our team. So like this morning, Elizabeth Clayman, not an employee, she's a vendor. Now I see her as a critical part of my team. She wasn't fazed by my recovering from the car accident and all the craziness I put my speakers through those first couple of years when I couldn't have things straight, right? I see her as important to what I do. Like, she's a testimony to my success. So I wouldn't be who I am today without her believing in my dream. And so I let her know how very precious she is to me, and I'm happy to promote her book, which actually launches tomorrow, called Fiercely Faithful. Be inspired, find true purpose, and live a miraculous life. Like, don't y'all feel like I'm a walking miracle sometimes? Well, let me tell you, Elizabeth was bedridden for 12 years. She's totally a walking miracle. And she gathered around her some folks that are just as miraculous in their overcoming, and it's launching tomorrow for just $1, first day on Amazon. So you got to go do that. All right, you got to go get that book for her. And I'm totally stoked to join her at the Fiercely Faithful Life Conference in Branson, Missouri, from February 5 to the 7th, the 5th to the 7th. Yep. 2021. I mean, Corona and weather and all that good stuff permitting, right? You can find out more about that at Braveheart Workshops. But I think it's really important to show people that they're important to you. And at one time, I had several employees for my business, and I didn't treat some of them very well, and then others I let go. Well, let me rephrase that. I didn't treat any of them real well, to be honest with you. With everything that happened and being my last assignment, those last 4 years, I really couldn't be in business. But I think like 8 months. I think I had 8 months of actually being in business, right? Everything else had to be nonprofit because I had different jobs where you had to be nonprofit, right? But before then, when I had the business and I worked in an area where I couldn't answer the phone all day and I couldn't step out to answer the phone, I had a virtual assistant to handle the phone. I had a virtual assistant to do my customer management. I had a virtual assistant for this. I had a virtual assistant for that. And I didn't give them clear direction. I didn't treat them very well. And I didn't let them know how much I relied on them. And so that was a lesson to me that when I went about to hire other people the next time around, I had to let them know how important they are to me. My current assistant, he knows how important he is to me. Now, he doesn't know how important he is to me in such that he's going to take advantage of me, but as I grow, he grows. And as I'm well compensated, he's well compensated. When you find good people, you want them around you. I think that's really important, right? You got to edify people. And if you don't, they're going to take their talents elsewhere. Or if they stay with you, they will stop giving you the full effort of their discretionary goodwill. It's discretionary goodwill that causes people to go over and above what their work statement says, their job description says, okay? So if people are diamonds on your team, make sure they know that they're diamonds, okay? Some people shine a light when they enter into a conversation. Others brighten the room when they leave it. And so when that happens, let those folks go. Let those people go. When you reward and support everyone the same, what you're actually doing is you lower the standards from which everybody else operates. And what happens is your best people slow down. So one of the most important things you could do as an entrepreneur, as a business leader, is to prune the imperfect. The top botanists know that the only way to achieve a perfect rose is to cut the buds that are 99% perfect. Henry Cloud wrote a book called Necessary Endings, and he said when you're pruning, there's 3 kinds of endings you have. So in a business relationship, partnership, interaction with employee, whatever it is, number 1 is you prune the good from detracting from the great. You prune the good from detracting from the great. The botanist knows that when he or she cuts that bud that's 99% beautiful, 99% perfect, 99% of people would love to have that rose. But what the botanist knows is what happens is when you prune the 99%, all the nutrients that were keeping that alive now go to the 100%. Now everything goes to the 100%. So the second principle here is that you prune the sick that can't be cured. You look. You got an employee where you've got to make a decision. At some point, it's the purpose of your organization to fix people. And I say that in a really broad brush when I say fix people because fundamentally, we don't necessarily believe that people are broken, okay? That's not what I'm saying here. But if you've been trying to help somebody break through some limiting belief or behavior problem or something, at a certain point, you got to ask yourself, is this my responsibility? Is this the rest of the team's responsibility? How much of this person's problem should the rest of the team carry? Some people just aren't a match at whatever time. And if it's not a match, out they go. And so if they're sick and they're not getting better, especially if they're not participating in their own salvation, then you've got to let them go. Your team needs you to do that. Your team needs you to do that. You are the decision maker. There's nothing worse than being on a team and then finally the boss does what everybody knows the boss should have done 6 months ago. And everybody goes, thank goodness, finally. Now there's only 2 good people left because they couldn't take it anymore. See, look, your best people, they have options. Quite frankly, eagles don't flock with turkeys. I think when you find somebody who's on your team and you can really define reality for them and show them a pathway for growth and give them, I don't think you just say, hey, Joe, you got a communication problem, figure it out. I think you help Joe. You create a pathway. You create a plan. You set standards. You set goals. But if Joe's just not getting better, and especially if Joe is not participating, it's time to prune. And this was a little bit hard for me to appreciate when I was the one who needed pruning. So many of you know, a couple years ago, I had a really bad car accident. And at the time, I was the chief of protocol for a 4-star general. And I really honestly thought that I was doing everything okay. I had no idea how horrible of a boss I had become after that car accident. I had no idea how I was doing the best I could and I was expending as much energy as I could, but I had no idea how poorly of a job I was doing. And I don't think I was doing poorly compared to, everybody else, because it wasn't that I was doing a bad job, but I wasn't doing my normal, absolute amazing job. Not only was I not doing my own amazing job, but because I was so stressed up trying to hold my job together and trying to prove that this thing hadn't stopped me and that they could promote me, which they didn't, but that was what I was trying to prove, was that no, you can still promote me, right? Because I was so stressed about that, I was a poor mom during that time, and then my brain couldn't heal. And I fought tooth and nail when they said they were going to move me somewhere else. And they moved me somewhere else. I had no job for 4 months. Like I just sat there like a vegetable. I sat at the front desk. When people would come in, I would say hi. Occasionally I would answer the phone. I was like the receptionist, only I wasn't the receptionist because hardly anybody ever called. I just kind of sat there. And then somebody else would need that desk, and I would move to another desk, and someone would need that desk, and I'd move to another desk. And I mean, I didn't even have a phone number or a desk or duties for like 4 months. Nobody thought I was going to get better. And I appreciate now that time of healing because that's what my brain needed, right? But at the time, I didn't want to be pruned. I wanted to prove that I still had it. And so we have to understand that sometimes as a commander, sometimes as a boss, sometimes as a leader, we got to make the hard decision that's best for the people and for the team. And if somebody's not performing and they're not getting better, it doesn't mean you kick them when they're down. But you gotta keep them from hindering your mission or hindering your growth or hindering your vision. And especially if they don't have the attitude of participating, okay? So we prune the sick that refuse to get well, okay? Now here's the third one. You prune the dead from preventing the growth of the living. And what you have to do here, you gotta rack and stack clients. Every so often, December's a great time to do it. You got to sit down and cut clients. Cut clients. That's the way it is. You make room for better clients. And so if I've got a client that's a chronic complainer and I can't make them happy and they are too much work, off they go. If I've got a client, I have a very liberal policy with my clients. Most people really don't want to reach out when it comes to money. When I've got somebody that they send like 20 text messages every week, it's like, okay, you know what? At the end of their term, hey, I think my group coaching is more of a better fit for you. Now, if they're adding value through valid complaints, okay, like, hey, JJ, you keep saying you're going to upload the imagination lesson, but it's still not there. Okay, now, well, that's valid. Now, for those of you who don't know the joke, the imagination lesson is like a thorn in my flesh. I have taught that thing seriously 5 times live, 6 or 7 times live now, and people get so much out of it. We're on the phone, everybody's growing. It's an amazing lesson, and every single time, y'all, that recording has not worked out. Up until now, right? Up until now. I'm claiming this as my year of completeness. We're going to get that lesson recorded one way or another. So I actually do appreciate when people have valid feedback, right? I appreciate when the speakers tell me, hey, your conference instructions aren't clear. Or if somebody's having difficulty with the portal. I pay good money for that thing. If it's not working, you need to let me know so I can get that taken care of, right? But if they're not paying on time, done. You're gone. If they haven't opened an email in the last 3 years, they're not a match. If they're headache tenants, I don't renew their lease. Now, I don't tell them, you're not a good fit. I tell them, clearly you're not happy here, so I'll release you from your lease terms. I've never had anybody that I say that to not take me up on it. Or I quote them an insanely high price to renew. Like if they had my $12,000 a year they had my $1,200 a year coaching package. Okay, well, next year my prices have gone up to $12,000 a year, right? Like, I know that sounds horrible. Because I don't ever really like to tell people no. I say yes if you're going to pay me 10 times more because you've given me 10 times more headaches than everybody else. Okay, that came out really, really mean. I have had some clients that I've raised their rent on, not because they were headaches. They were actually really, really good tenants, but because of the dynamics of, having a mortgage and all that stuff, which is why I now teach don't get real estate properties with a mortgage, especially not an adjustable rate mortgage. All right. So anyway, I digress. Now I remember the first time one of my business mentors told me, you don't have to take every client. I was like, what? What do you mean? I spent all my time trying to get these people. I spent a lot of money on customer acquisition. But he told me I was expending energy on people who were not profitable to me. And the first time I had to cut the bottom 20%, I was scared to death, y'all. Because, that's money. That's money on the table, right? But here's what's going to happen. When you start pruning that bottom 20%, what you're going to be left with, you're going to start looking for what's the perfect client. You're going to be left with the clients that make your heart sing. You're going to start attracting what is the perfect client. It's kind of like dating. Half y'all single ladies can't find Mr. Right because every time you bump into him without knowing, he see you crying and running back to Mr. Drama. Mr. Spend all your money and sitting home playing video games. And he looks at that and says, oh, well, I thought she was the one for me, but clearly she wants something else. It's the same with clients. You got to prune out what's not ideal, and then you'll start being able to having the resources and the time to take care of those perfect clients. And because of that, I have built a really successful, profitable business. So I know it seems tough, y'all, and I know it seems harsh, but your team needs you to make those tough decisions as an entrepreneur. Your job is to decide which is which. Your job is to decide what's the standard. And it's interesting, again, how all these principles we've been discussing overlap. Well, this kind of goes back to the one-on-one decision, right? It's your biggest responsibility to make these decisions. And you're making decisions now about who to keep, who to bring into the organization, who to let go. And a huge part of leadership is getting the right people in the team and the wrong people out of the team. Now look, recognize this. Some people might be the right people today, but people come into our lives for a reason, a season, or a lifetime. And some people who are on your team, they join because at that time there was a reason for them to be there. Some people have jumped in because they're there for that season of your growth. And then when you go into a new season, now they're no longer a match. and it's okay. I remember the first time I attended the John Maxwell International certification as a executive director. Paul Martinelli, our president at the time, did these behind the scenes huddles to teach us event planning as we took on greater responsibility for the conference. He would tell the story of how they started off with 600 people in the room, and each year they'd go to a bigger and bigger hotel. And then they'd get to the next big hotel, and then they'd start expanding. You're in the ballroom that splits 8 ways, and now you got 2 sections and 3 sections and 5 sections, right? And he would look around. He said, "Look, they built this room for somebody. They built it for us, and I want you to look around because not everybody's going to be in our huddle circle a year from now. Now we're in the largest Marriott twice a year, and guess what? Not everyone is in the room anymore. The most empowering conference you'll ever attend, and some of those people, they are no longer in the room. They missed it. They missed the growth. And so the question is this room too big for you?" John Maxwell team outgrew that room a couple of times. Let me ask you, is the room you're in too big for you? Are you going to stay in the cozy 500-person room? Because if you're staying in the 500-person room, you're not coming to the 3,000-person room. Are you in the 3,000-person room? Are you that kind of person? Are you going to be there for the next season? Women Building Wealth Together conference started 6 years ago with 20 ladies in the training room of Keller Williams Kingstown. All of the speakers volunteered their time. I didn't have any money to pay anyone back then. Man, I barely broke even. This year, we had over 2,000 virtual attendees, and we paid our speakers. And some of my speakers were there in that room in the beginning. But you know what? Many weren't. Are you joining me for the ride? Some will and some won't, and that's okay. And if they're not that good, if they're not the right fit, we bless them, we wish them well, and we support them. We give them as soft of a landing as we can, or as big as a push as they need to help them out, and then we get back to work on what we got to do. If you want to have a special program for your teammates, go ahead and do that, but don't lump everybody together. Your business is not some 5-year-old summer potato sack race, right, where everybody gets a trophy. Your business isn't that. Everybody doesn't get a trophy. It doesn't get that. Okay, so your job, again, as a leader, you have to define what are your standards, what are the incentives for the individuals, what are the incentives for the teams, and you got to reward those who stand out. You got to reward those who stand out. Now, it's kind of like this. Don't you hate when you've been called to a meeting and you're there? Like the meeting starts at 10, you're there at 9:50, and now it's 10 o'clock. The leader gets up in the front of the room and says, "We're going to start in a couple minutes. We'll just wait for the rest of the people to show up." And you think, what do you mean wait for the rest of the people? I'm here. It's time to start. Yeah, but we're going to wait for the other people. Now, what message does that send? It sends a message the next time you're not showing up till 5 past, are you? It also sends a message that you're really not that important. Either you're not important, or what I said before about starting on time wasn't that important, or the time of the thing isn't important, or it's okay to be late. Or maybe it says if you're late, you're more important. Because look, if everybody's going to wait for the late person, they must be important. They're going to wait for the important person, right? So see this as an entrepreneur. All these little things send big messages to your team. It's the same with our family, y'all. It's the same with our family. It's the same in our nonprofit. It's the same in everything we do. How you do everything, how you do some things is how you do everything. So I think this is really an interesting principle about don't treat everybody the same. And I think it applies to customers. Again, I think it applies to everyone. Don't treat everybody the same because everybody's different. A key principle is to look after your top performers. And so let me say, leadership, it's really the same for a family or organization or mom and pop store or whatever. How does the child spell love? Time. That's what it is to them. So true. What about your team of people? Where do you spend all your time on the organization? Let me guess. You spend most of your time with the people who are causing you 80% of the trouble. Remember, when we did Leadership Gold, the lesson, don't send your ducks to Eagle School. We tend to spend 80% of our time on the 20% of our most troublesome clients, employees, vendors, and it really should be the opposite. Remember what Stephen Covey teaches. All of our tasks can be categorized by urgent or importance. Some tasks are urgent and important. Some are important, but they're not urgent. Some are urgent, but they're actually not important. And of course, there's always those tasks that are both not urgent and not important, right? So you end up with this quadrant. You could draw it out into quadrants, right? Typically, people spend all their time on the urgent things because that's what's in front of their face, screaming and shouting for their attention. And guess what shouts the loudest? I don't know about you, but for me, the loudest in my face tasks are generally the urgent and non important. My son drops increasing hints that he needs more mommy time, but it's in that still small voice, and I've had to learn not to ignore it until it becomes an urgent behavior problem. Many of the really important things that aren't urgent right now will become urgent if we don't address them, but we have so much peace and effectiveness and productivity if we will take care of them before they become urgent breathing down our neck. And look, y'all, I'm saying this as somebody who shines under pressure and who is always, I used to always wait till the last minute because I mean, I didn't do this consciously, but I learned later, I do my best work under pressure. And so I would just somehow sabotage myself or procrastinate, wait till the last minute. And then I was so relieved when I learned that many D-style personalities do exactly the same thing, right? When I had to learn that it wreaks havoc on our team. See, if you're the leader, they need you to lead. Not wait till the last minute and then you can't delegate now because you don't have time to explain it to anybody, right? So many of the things that we're focusing on are urgent, but a lot of them are actually not important. They're urgent, so they need to be done, but we don't want to put ourselves there. We want to spend more of our time on the important but not urgent things and take care of them before they become urgent. We must be proactive in planning. We must choose the important things, the most important things, and choose how to go about them. That way it's not all done at the last minute, okay? Remember, how does a child spell love? T-I-M-E. And how does your team fit into this? Well, probably your lowest performers, your weakest links, are always in your face demanding your attention. It's urgent, urgent, urgent. But it's not that important compared to what they do. Now look, it's important to them. They're making a noise. But they're not actually contributing that much to the bottom line. Same with customers. Get rid of the weak customers, and then you can focus on the top performers, the top performing customers, the top performing staff members. You want them in the not urgent but important quadrant because the top performers, they're self-sufficient. They don't need your time all the time. They just get on with it. So you don't know whether they're looking for somebody else. They're so busy producing, you're just ignoring them. You're letting them do their thing. But if they're not happy, it may be that they're quietly looking for a better job or a better opportunity. Spend time with your top performers proactively, not urgently. I also want to encourage you today to reward what you want to duplicate, because what you reward, you get more of. You reward people coming in late, then that's what you're going to get more of. It's a difficult time right now, but look, it was also a difficult time in the 90s, and guess what? Just like back then, here with COVID, you see that most organizations can find a way to hold on to the people that they really want to keep. Sure, it might be difficult, but the people who are really good, who have a great attitude, most organizations can find a way to hang on to them. Well, my organization didn't hold on to me. Well, now that's something we can work on with my Real Success Mentoring Program, okay? I've been there, y'all. Back during sequestration, which was devastating for many federal employees, I watched organizations bend over backwards to retain talent, but they sure didn't care about me. Ooh, that is why I'm so passionate about this now. When I retired from the Air Force, I was actually surprised because, many of you know I had medical issues. I wasn't worldwide qualified anymore, but no one thought I was going to go into full-time coaching and speaking. They all expected me to apply for this or that job. When the realization that I was not going to work for the man anymore sunk in, I had people begging me to work during my terminal leave. And I even had the general ask, "What can we do to change your mind?" So I don't know a nice way to say this, okay? But I can help you grow from being the person nobody wants around to being the person that everyone is begging to stick around. Now that's personal growth. And if you're the boss, there's so many different ways. And honestly, people lower down in the company hierarchy, they don't even realize it. But there's so many ways for a leader in most organizations to be able to reward people or to remunerate them as bonuses, overtime, training, share options, working from home. I mean, opportunity to progress. And so people said, well, I'm not getting the same overtime as them. And the people who are union members, okay, there you go. Now you're getting. But there's so many things that they're not getting as a consequence of not being a top performer. Just like everybody else, you're getting the same. But I don't know that you want people who want to be the same as everybody else. I think you want people who want to be able to produce what they can and be rewarded for it. So don't treat your customers the same. Don't treat your staff the same. The same with your kids. Cubby gets way more attention and love than anybody else in the family, and everybody gets it because it's good for them too. But he needs it, right? That's what it takes for him to get it right now, for him to grow right now. So we're not all the same, and it's important for us to recognize that. All right, we're going to wrap up for today, but be on the lookout for our Wednesday lesson, People Are Your Best Asset. Okay? And if you're listening to this as part of the Building Wealth Together podcast, well, Wednesday's Wealth Building Wednesday. But remember, it's not too late for you to catch up on these lessons, which are a part of the Countdown to Your Best Year Ever class. The entire 14-part course is free until December 31st. It's my gift to you, and you can find it under Countdown to Your Best Year Ever at buildingwealthtogether.com. I'm JJ Conway. Thank you for joining us today. Y'all take care and be blessed.
Love the podcast? Be sure to like, subscribe, and forward to 3 friends. You can ask a question or take a life-changing class at buildingwealthtogether.com. Now, go walk in abundance and leave a legacy.